Hey everybody, Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government here. Looking around, trying to lots going on here in DC right now. It's we're Memorial Day weekend, and most places slow down, and it's Friday, and things kind of slow down and everything. But not here in DC. We have real movement in terms of the debt ceiling fight. Movement that's a good thing. A Biden administration that was refusing to even negotiate, refusing to even have meetings, refusing to even talk about anything other than do what we say, stomping their feet, complaining, wah, 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 nonstop, do it our way. You're going to destroy the world if you cut a dime out of the budget. Um, Real progress is being made. It's not in the way of kicking the can down the road. It's real progress, and it looks like it will result in real cuts. At least that's what's being reported by CNBC and elsewhere. Let me remind you what's at stake right now. We have $31.4 trillion in debt. Every single newborn born into this country automatically has an invoice that they owe of $95,000. $95,000 per new child. That's that's what the national debt is owed for every man, woman, and child in America. $95,000. It's shameful, it's disgraceful. Fortunately, the House Republicans, with a mere 5-vote majority, have said, we are going to fight to try to turn this ship around. We're going to fight for fiscal sanity. We're going to try to make it so America is no longer the biggest debtor nation in the world. Joe Biden's been talking a lot about paying our debts. The fact is, we haven't been paying our debts. We've been borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing some more with no pathway in sight to ever balance our budget, ever balance the long-term fiscal sanity, and make it so we no longer have a $32 trillion national debt. That's the truth. And the deal that we're fighting over right now will really take a small chunk out of a very big problem. But it's a small chunk. It's something that's worth fighting for because it's beginning to change the course. Joe Biden's been talking about something called battling for the soul of America. Well, this is the battle for the soul of America, at least one of them, because what we spend, what the government spends, and what it spends it on is what America values. There's an old saying that if you want to know what your real values are, look at your check, look at your bank account, see where you spend your money. Well, this is where one of those options where you can take a look and you can say, do we value balancing budgets? Do we value fiscal responsibility? No, we don't, because our checkbook tells us we don't. Well, this is an opportunity right here and now to draw that, where the line's being drawn in the sand, and the Republicans in the House in particular are holding firm with only a 5-vote majority. They're holding firm on some very, very concrete principles about cutting the size and scope of government. This is one of the few opportunities that I've seen in my 13 years here at Americans for Limited Government, where we actually have a real fight over the future of our nation's fiscal future. And what we are hoping you will do is that you will join that fight. You will join, if you haven't already, and even if you have, rejoin it. I'm going to show you something here I'm just going to put it up on the screen here. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. If you go to Americans for Limited Government, getliberty.org, go to getliberty.org, you can take action simply by clicking on this $31 trillion debt. It's getliberty.org. I need you to take action now. Your members of Congress need to hear this, and all your friends, you need to share this with all your friends so they are taking action also. When you click on this button, this $31 trillion cut spending now button, you're going to get something to tell Congress to pass the Limit, Save, Grow Act to prevent default. The Limit, Save, Grow Act, parts of that will be part of the final deal. It's not going to be exactly the Limit, Save, Grow Act, but that's the baseline that we're fighting over. It's the thing everybody understands. And so when you send an email that tells Congress to pass the Limit, Save, Grow Act to prevent default, they know exactly what you're talking about. Joe Biden himself has admitted that the national debt will hit $50 trillion under his budget by 2033. this is trying to reverse the course on that. Now, in 10 years, what this does is it cuts about a little over $4.8 trillion out of the budget deficit. That's so we're still growing the national debt. This isn't the full solution. This is a part of the solution. This is what you can get done now. And you're not going to get all of the limit, save, grow. You're going to get real cuts done. And most likely, according to what people are reporting, cuts that exceed what were done in 2011 when we brought, for a short time, brought our deficit spending almost to its knees. What I'm hoping you'll do is if you'll sit there, you'll fill out this form. And once again, getliberty.org, fill out this form. I need to put Mr. there, and it's just limit, save, grow is a substantial approach to limit the size and scope of government, cut spending as a true path back to fiscal sanity. This legislation not only limits the fiscal growth of government through discretionary spending caps, but also contains provisions that limit the growth of the administrative state, roll back regulations, rescind green subsidies, and end Biden's stranglehold on American energy production. So that's what the message you're sending. You hit take action, and that will go to your member, to each one of your members. Your email will have been sent then. Then it bounces to a thing which says, if you want to help us out and you want to send some money our way, great, please do that next. And even more significantly down here, it says, share this. And I'm going to this part, the money part's great. The share this is what matters. Getting this into the hands of as many people right now while this fight's going on, while decisions are being made, while the deals are being cut. This is when people need to be hearing from you. This is when these congressmen need to be hearing from you. They're doing a great job, but they're getting bombarded by the left. I did a thing yesterday, a video that you can watch on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook channel or on our Rumble channel. I did a video that talks about how big business has been pushing hard for Biden's agenda, for Biden's approach of just kicking the can down the road. Why? Because a lot of those big businesses benefit from big government. They're inextricably intertwined now. And so they like big government. Cuts may affect them. So consequently, there's urging Republicans, the big businesses, Wall Street, are urging Republicans to continue spending at a drunken sailor pace, because ultimately they benefit. And the people who lose in those circumstances, not the big businesses, not Wall Street, people who lose are you, the people who actually have to do the work and pay the taxes in this country. So that's why it's important that we fight and continue to fight. And sharing this with others is very, very important, because getting as many emails into Congress right now is essential. And obviously, we appreciate any dollars that you might be able to send. Every single dollar that comes in on this project will be put into ads promoting this exact email to others who are like-minded, and attempting to maximize and exponentially grow the number of emails that Congress is getting as they work through the weekend and as they go into next week. With the deadline approaching, the debt ceiling deadline of June 1, you're going to see a lot of action over the weekend. And more than likely, you'll have a House vote as early as Tuesday. The question is, if the Republicans hold firm, the Republicans come out with a deal that has substantial spending, it appears that will be the case, or spending cuts, and it appears that'll be the case. If those things occur, then the key is you're not going to get very many Democrat votes for it. So you're going to need to hold the Republican conference together. That's something which we need to. So that's one of the things we need to do with this, is really help push pressure on the Republicans to hold firm, keep fighting, don't back down, don't lose their courage in the last moments. Stay firm, keep fighting. And let them know that you're behind them, that you will back them, that you will support them, and you'll be in their corner fighting for them every bit as hard as they're fighting for you right now. So that's what we're hoping you'll do in terms of taking action. Once again, it's at getliberty.org, and if you could do that right now, that would be great. Let's talk about some specifics related to the what's being reported about this bill, because I think it's important that we actually take a look at what is being said. Debt ceiling, this is CNBC this morning. Debt ceiling negotiators make progress on spending, but still have major issues. This report and the other reports of progress are why Wall Street had opened with a big open this morning, about 300 points. I haven't looked at what it is right now, but because what the people in Wall Street are saying is there's going to be a deal done. All this rhetoric about default doesn't look like it's going to happen, and hence ultimately that's what they care about is will the bills get paid? Will their bill for the treasury bills that they own, will they get paid the interest that they're owed on those treasury bills? So ultimately that's one of the things that's happening here in terms of the debts, in terms of this. So CNBC and others were reporting this. Let's talk about what some of the things that are being reported. Here's a big one. They're rescinding some of the $80 billion allocated to the IRS by last year's Inflation Reduction Act. Remember the 87,000 new IRS agents? The Republicans went nuts over that and have been pushing hard to end that. It's according to this, they're not going to get all those 87,000 agents, stop all of them, but they're going to stop a large number of them from being hired. They're going to remember, these are agents when in the actual job description said you need to be armed, you need to be willing to be armed and dangerous. And so they're hiring 87,000 soldiers to go out and go after taxpayers. Armed soldiers to go out and go after taxpayers. That's what the Biden administration intends. Republicans have been drawing a line in the sand on this. This is a big fight, and rolling back some of the significant portion of that money being allocated to the IRS is a massive victory. Remembering that the House only has a 5-vote majority and the Senate has a majority. The Democrats have a majority in the Senate and the White House. We're looking, it says that the vote could be on Tuesday, Senate voting on Wednesday. Let's see here. They're not everywhere on this in terms of getting everything done, but it looks like they're going to be in a position where they're going to be cutting some of the money that's being spent. One of the places where they've been trying to fight over, and it's unclear from the articles where they're at, was to roll back the baseline spending of the federal government from today's levels to what the level was 5 months ago. And that's been one of the priorities that the Republicans had. Another priority has been to limit growth from that lower baseline, to only 1% per year for discretionary spending. So those are things that are significant. So when you look at this, CNBC is saying that it looks like they could claim correctly that they had secured a cut in baseline government spending. That's massive. Remember, what baseline spending does is it says, oh, well, we expect government to grow by 5%. And then when you say, oh, government's only going to grow by 4%, they call it a budget cut. Cutting baseline spending means a real budget cut, an actual, real, measurable budget cut, where you said, I spent $5 yesterday, and today I'm only spending $4. Okay, so that's what it means when you say cutting baseline spending. That is a massive win if this reporting is correct. It does look like there's going to be, the Democrats have recently started saying, "Gee, well, we want tax increases to as well," and that has been a stumbling block. And that's been something the Republicans said, "No, you're not getting tax increases." It remains to be seen what happened in that debate. But it doesn't appear as though the Democrats prevailed in terms of tax increases. And Kevin McCarthy was very articulate on this when he talked about how taxes in America, revenues collected by the federal government, it's only been it's the third highest percentage of gross domestic product. The revenues collected are the third highest of the U.S. total economy in the last 50 years. Third highest, almost 20% of the GDP of our nation's total wealth that generated last year in the last year, being eaten up by tax revenues, eaten up by the government. On the other side of it, the government's been spending about 23, 24% of our GDP. And McCarthy's point is, listen, we're getting more revenues than we basically ever get in history, and we're spending more money than we ever spent in history. Maybe the problem isn't the revenue side. Increasing taxes may not be the answer. Maybe the answer is maybe we need to cut some of the spending we've been doing, because we've been spending way more than our economy can afford. And so that's been the talking point. It's been exactly right on, and that's been one of the big fights over there. What's more, there's a fight the Republicans are fighting over, trying to say, gee whiz, if you are a individual who is working age, you don't have any children, you ought to be and not under the disability program or something like that. You got to be at work. You can't just sit around collecting welfare. You have to get your ass to work. Matt, what a concept. Healthy. We have an unemployment rate of under 4%. We have jobs aplenty, over almost 10 million jobs nationwide available. And yet we have the able-bodied people still sitting at home saying, well, I don't really want to go to work. And I'll still get very federal government benefits whether I go to work or not. And the Republicans are saying, no, you have to go to work. You have to have a job. You're not going to just sit on your butt and just collect money off the federal taxpayer. If you're able-bodied, you don't have a kid you've got to raise, you don't have any other reason, any excuses, you need to be working. You need to be a contributing member of society. Democrats don't like that. They like people who are dependent upon government. And so they're fighting tooth and nail on that, according to Chris Coons in the video I did yesterday on this. When you look at some other issues, there's a fight over whether or not Biden's $400 billion giveaway on student loans is going to be accepted or not. Biden has been fighting like crazy to try to get that accepted, and to not be essentially forced to be paid back. And that's been a point of contention. It's unclear how that one's going to work its way out. And I'll just read to you. Here's Garrett Graves, who's one of McCarthy's top negotiators, congressman. This is from today. In a sign of how contentious the issue had become Friday, Graves gave a curt response when a reporter asked him if the GOP would be willing to drop the work requirements in order to close the final deal. Hell no, not a chance. Hell no, not a chance. Because you know what the Republicans understand? They understand that if you have a labor shortage and you're paying a bunch of people not to work, you're really stupid. And there's no reason to pay a bunch of people not to work who are able-bodied and able to work when there are jobs available. It is nothing more than feeding the dependency state, and it's hurting people. It's doing real harm to people. When you're sitting there in your basement being a dependent and not being an adult and not having any self-worth because you're not taking care of yourself, you are damaging that person's psychology. You're making them feel as though they're lesser than anybody else, that they have no worth whatsoever. You want to contribute to the opioid crisis. You want to contribute to the deaths from fentanyl. The best way to do that is to create a population of people who feel like they're worthless and dependent upon the government to be able to even survive. Jobs create self-worth. Jobs create purpose. The Democrats want to have a society that wallows in self-pity and is looking to the mailbox for the next government check to arrive. Republicans want a society where our people are looking in their automatic deposit for their paycheck to arrive. That's the difference. Self-sufficiency versus dependency. And that's a battle that they're fighting right now. This is for the soul of America. Once again, Joe Biden keeps talking about the battle for the soul of America. This is the battle for the soul of America. Is America going to be a bunch of dependent slugs who are sitting in their basement playing with their computers? Or are they going to be independent people who are working and creating and building and growing and just being inspired and exercising their freedoms? Guess what? That's the battle for the soul of America. And this is one, when you look at battles like in the Revolutionary War, you had a number of battles Well, this is like Bunker Hill, okay? We're not at the end of this fight. We're at the beginning of this fight. And we're fighting a behemoth that's well funded and is set to destroy this country and destroy America as we know it. This is the first battle in the major battle in this fight. And the question is, are you going to be in it? America's Limited Government's been in it. We've been talking about it. We've been petitioning Congress. We've been going up there. I've had numerous meetings and conversations with various members of Congress about it. We've had members of Congress on our air talking about it on numerous occasions. And so this is a big deal. This is kind of like doesn't happen all the time. You don't always get real big deal votes. This is one of them. And so I just hope that what you will do is you will, once again, go to getliberty.org, click on the $31 trillion debt cut spending now, and share this with everybody you know, because it is important that we get not just you, but we get all your friends doing this. And then you're going to get, I'm not going to get back to that second page. You'll have to remember the second page because it's let's see if we can do this. Click it. Yeah, I'll have to do this. So you click on that thing, you'll get the page that has the information on it. They fill this out and click to send it to your senators and your one congressman. Just hit the take action, and you will end up right here. And once again, share. That's what matters on this. I'm going to start taking some comments because I think it's important. I've said what I can say. Let's see here. Boom. Hey, Michael, how are you doing? And thanks for joining us. Trump's still president. The biggest fraud in 2020 was Democrats, paid by Democrats. Yeah, one of the things that I think is true is that we know the game that's being played, and Americans standing up and jamming this kind of bill down their throats matters. It shows that you still matter. It shows that the American people still matter. It shows that the Democrats are afraid of the repercussions of their own programs. And it shows that when the Republicans stand up and they say, and they have a backbone, they can win. They don't have to play the other side's game. They can win by standing up for America. It reminds me of the 20 members of Congress who said to Kevin McCarthy, sorry, you don't get to be speaker unless we set up rules that allow for the House members to have power, to be able to do stuff, to be able to actually put fights on the floor and to do their job as members of Congress. And it went through 15, 16, 17 different votes until those rules were worked out. One of the things that was worked out in this process was Kevin McCarthy promised to have this exact fight. And the House Republicans have been preparing for this fight since then, because they recognize this as being a crucible moment when we're going to make a decision on the direction of the country. And so when we were sitting there watching this meandering thing and everybody's sitting there, rolling around saying, oh, the world's going to end, we don't have a speaker. That fight was a preparation for the fight we have now. It unified the conference around certain core principles and gave Kevin McCarthy a charge to go and fight and win this particular battle and limit the size and scope of government. So we can look all the way back to January. We can look back to December. We can look back to November when some of us were sitting there working on this exact fight way back then, because we knew that this was one of those crucible moments in American history when we can either allow the ship of state to continue at pell-mell towards a fiscal cliff, and China domination, truthfully, or we can draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough. And that is what's happening. So thank you, Michael, for commenting. Let's take a look. President Trump was president for we the people. Gene, I agree with you. And I think there's we see what's been happening along with WHO, which if you go back to the Get Liberty, you'll see right here's a petition dealing with WHO, which was also extraordinarily important. It's that they're taking away our sovereignty. So I'd encourage you to go back to Get Liberty and do that also, because quite honestly, it's falling by the wayside. And this is a dangerous. Biden's effectively giving away American freedoms. You're giving away your doctor-patient relationship to the World Health Organization, owned by China. It's insane what they're doing. A different fight, but same idea. We got to stop these people who want to destroy freedom in America, individual liberty, every step, and they're taking massive swings at the plate to try to hit a grand slam and end America as we know it forever. So this is very important. So thank you for bringing that up, Gene. And you can go ahead and you can click on this off of Get Liberty after you do the debt ceiling one. But the fight on all this is real. We are conducting that fight on the, one of the areas that's in dispute on this, and I'm not sure how it's going to go because it's really important. But the Democrats are fighting too, and a lot of the big businesses are fighting over this, and it's the ESG stuff. There's about $300 billion over 10 years in tax credits going to big businesses, a lot of big businesses, to do ESG stuff, to do the Green New Deal. It's actually estimated by some independent accountants who've looked at it that this $300 billion will actually turn into $1.2 trillion of tax credits once it's all done over 10 years. And this is about transforming America. It's about making it so your coal and natural gas fired power plants are basically run out of business in a decade. And effectively we become a country that's dependent upon solar and wind. And it's money that's going to be spent to try to create, to drive the internal combustion engine out of existence, drive Henry, the major innovation that Henry Ford did. And I'll talk about cars for a second here, because this goes into this. This is their big picture. And this is actually in the fight that we're doing right now. Because the Republicans are saying in the bill that they passed, they claw back all that spending. They say we're not going to give that money away for the green energy tax credits and all the green energy giveaways. So we're not doing that. So they took that. So that's part of the fight that they're having right now over this debt ceiling, is what to do about that. Because here's what the Democrats have already done. They have a regulation right now that's at the EPA that would effectively end the internal combustion engine. It would just end it. Say nope. You can't have it. The estimate is that you'd end up with 7 million electric vehicles in 10 years. And effectively they wouldn't be making the profitability, the ability to actually make money selling an internal combustion engine would be gone. So what happens? Well, suddenly they're going to buy back. They're going to do everything they can to get their hands on every single internal combustion engine car. They won't be making any new ones, and they're only going to be making about 7 million new, electric vehicles. Well, guess what? Our power grid can't handle 7 million electric vehicles. It won't be able to then either. Because remember, on the other side, they're killing the coal and natural gas production of the electricity, 60% of our electricity. So we won't be able to handle the electricity load on our utility grid. So the average person, what do you have to do? You have to move into the city. You have to take the bus. You're going to have to take have the independence of having your own car. Every American boy sits there, most American boys, and we go out and say, can't wait till they're 16 so they can get the car and their freedom and go off and be 16-year-old boys, 17-year-old boys. At least I remember when I was at that age and how excited I was to be able to get my own car and drive my little brother and sister around and be able to have a job and do those kind of things. Bottom line is they want to end that. They want to end the basic American freedoms and make us dependent upon the state, even just to get from point A to point B. That's what this fight's about. This is for the soul of America. I don't know how the clawback of the new Green Deal stuff is going. I don't know what negotiations have happened in terms of whether we're succeeding in that or not. But the fact it's on the table, the fact we're fighting over it, tells me that when we do our budget, when we start doing our appropriations bills, we're going to start pulling that stuff back. we're going to start saying, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to take it. We need to be tearing apart piece by piece. If we don't win the big battle on that issue right now, we have to win the battle on a piece by piece basis as we do our appropriations, as we do new tax bills. So that's one of the things that's happening right with this also. So thank you for bringing that up. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah, Mike, you're right. It's ironically, when Joe Biden became a senator in 1973, our budget deficit was $538 billion. And by the time he wants to 2033, 60 years later, Joe Biden's projecting our budget deficit will be, our national debt will be, this is our national debt, not our deficit. Our national debt will be $50 trillion. So 538 billion national debt. When Biden became first came to the Senate in 1973, to $50 trillion 60 years later, with Biden voting for almost every dime that would have been spent. So that is so yeah, Joe Biden he sits there and talks about, I cut the deficit. It's like one of those things where you can tell the truth and tell a lie at the same time, because the deficit that he cut was the COVID spending ran out. He kept increasing spending. He can cut the spending, say, gee, we don't need the same size of government that we had in 2020 because of COVID. No, he kept growing government. He just, the COVID spending ran out, and he's taking credit because the COVID spending ran out. But what we're seeing now is he's got no plan to get us under $1 trillion deficit. And this plan that we're pushing right now will at least take a chunk out of the course, the crazy deficit spending course we've been on. Let's see here. Bill Sharp. Democrats better be working all weekend on better not celebrate Memorial Day, since they don't support the Constitution or veterans. The people more is against their narrative. Yeah, Bill. I think. Okay, you're misconstruing words. Democrats and working are counter words, but what they ought to be doing is you're right. The Democrats need to be spending their time working with Republicans to try to untangle this mess. And on Monday or on Tuesday, when they vote in the House, assuming they've come together with something, your guys is taking action. And in the comments section, you've got a link to being able directly to the Take Action page. Your guys taking action, your guys getting others to take action is going to make a huge difference in terms of what they're voting on Tuesday. If we've got a bill on Tuesday that has 100 Republicans voting against it, and at that point, it means the Democrats were able to basically win some of these basic battles that are necessary for survival of the country. Right now is the time to contact people. The time is, although we're going to still be pushing, the further once this deal gets agreed upon, it's extremely difficult to change it. And you kind of have to then just swallow and decide, okay, is it good enough or not? And am I going to support it or not? Right now is when the deals are being cut. Now is when the Republicans need to have the backbone. And you are the spine stiffeners. So be a spine stiffener, take action and do what's necessary. Let's just see what we got. Mike, we simply signed the bill to keep it going and acting like he really done something for our country. Yeah, well, I guess this is carry on. He took credit for the healthcare and $38 prescription costs that Trump put in place to make it seem like he has done something for us. Well, of course, listen, these guys are politicians, and there's nothing like, no politician doesn't, if they think something's good for them politically, they're going to take credit for it, even if they voted against it. So that's kind of the way the way of the world. But what I'm hoping we could do with this, and I appreciate we got a lot of great comments here. Let's see here. Bunny Festovia. You believe leftist eyes because they are the ones who help the rich and come. Yeah, well, I don't know who Bunny Festovia is, but I can tell you this. When you look at who's supporting, when you talk about the Wall Street and the multinationals all being frustrated that the House Republicans are fighting like crazy, and the Senate Republicans have joined them, and say, "Keep going, way to go!" They're cheering them from the sidelines, so to speak. The fact of the matter is that is the lines have been redrawn in this country. Donald Trump he changed everything. Republicans were always seen as being the Wall Street guys, the big business guys. And now the Republican Party is, at least the House Republicans and most of the House Republicans, and many of the Senate Republicans, and many of your state legislators, and many of your governors, and attorney generals for that matter, are Main Street Republicans, for the small business, for the guy who goes to works for a living, gets his hands dirty. And the Democrats are now the party of big special interests, where those special interests are bankers in $5,000 suits, or labor union executives in $5,000 suits. They don't care about the labor union member. They care about the labor union executives. Okay, the ones who can take the money that they get and spend it for their elections. But they don't really care about the person who's a dues paying member, because unless those people work for the federal government, they're trying to shut them down with all this green stuff. They don't want people building pipelines. They don't want people building buildings. They want people building new houses. They don't want people working in oil fields. They don't want any of that stuff. The only unions they care about are the public employee unions, because those people are their new core constituency. They aren't for the private economy; they're for the public economy, and that's really changed over the last 10 years. And Donald Trump is the one who really took the Reagan coalition that was so successful in the 80s and reminded people of that Reagan coalition in 2016, a coalition that Ross Perot was part of. And, because Donald Trump said trade deals matter, shipping our jobs overseas are unacceptable. Our economy is being ripped apart by China, which is pilfering industries and essentially taking apart our industrial base piece by piece with malintent, all with the promise of cheaper goods, cheaper labor. And it's always cheaper goods and cheaper labor until they control it, at which point they have this sort of Damocles over your head if you don't do what they say. I remember there was way back when I was working on a project dealing with an aluminum mill in Montana, and the end of the story ended up being that the guy who owned it was essentially driven out of business, and he sold it to the Chinese. And the Chinese came in one day and they literally disassembled the entire plant, put it on a truck, and then put it on a ship, shipped that plant to China, and re-put it together, and then replicated it 100 times over. And now we're importing our aluminum from China. So much so that Donald Trump said this is dangerous, and he put tariffs on Chinese aluminum imports, causing great consternation for many, but essentially trying to save those aluminum plants that still existed here, and help more grow and help more investment go into aluminum production and steel production. That's the battle for the soul of America. If we don't make aluminum, we don't make steel. You know what we can't make? We can't make tanks. We can't make fighter planes. We can't make cars. We can't make anything. And we become nothing more than serfs to Chinese masters. That's the battle for the soul of America. So, folks, I've talked enough here. I appreciate you being on. We have a fight. I hope you're encouraged to get into it, and encouraged that the fight can be won, because it can be. But now's the time. With that, I'm going to close out. Thank you. If you have any comments or anything that you just want to send directly to me, feel free to send them to my email address, rmanning@getliberty.org, rmanning@getliberty.org, folks. And with that, I'm going to end the broadcast. Thank you. Bye-bye.